stop playing these games. We need a word for the people's pain. So spit it out now, let it pour like rain. Oh, we're desperate, we're chasing after you.
The 2016 A Day of Service Mega King Fest, hosted by the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. The 2016 annual Mega King Fest is the largest event in the nation honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today, we celebrate the life of Dr. King. We celebrate also the towering influence that he has had on the lives of many during his life. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. Though Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a man of many words, it was his actions that spoke volumes about society and the solutions necessary for its progress. As an educated man, he combined his knowledge of such great thinkers as Mohandas Gandhi with his own beliefs and values and showed the world an alternative way to protest for progress. From speeches to sit-ins, Dr. King understood that goals could be achieved through peaceful, non-violent means. What follows today are tributes to his legacy. They illustrate not only his values, but his character. Once again, on behalf of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, I welcome you to the largest event honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the 2016 Mega King Fest, hosted right here at UALR Jack Stevens Center. And now, please welcome at this time, last year's keynote speaker, this year's MC, from the long-running hit daytime series, The Young and the Restless. Please welcome Mr. Eric Victor Newman.
I'll be damned. So nice to be here. You know, one can't help, obviously, these days to think about the problems of the world. And I wish the many problems of the Middle East between Shiites and Sunnis, in Israel, between the Israelis and the Palestinians, that they would find ways to solve their problems by someone like Martin Luther King. You often wonder why someone like that has not risen up in that part of the world where the problems seem intractable. But to me, that is the message of Martin Luther King, the notion, and that's the essential thing of Christianity. I'm not a religious man. I grew up as a Protestant. But two things stuck with me in my mind. The notion of forgiveness for our sins, and the notion of brotherly and sisterly love. Those are the two most important messages. We all one. We all have problems. We all get up in the mornings, a little tired, not wanting to go to work, having to deal with financial problems, with children, with dirty diapers. We're all the same, really. These artificial differentiations between us mean nothing in the end. Anyway, I'm here to introduce a few people who have contributed to make this day possible. And who I want to thank most of all is to Sean Scarborough, the gentleman sitting to my left, who has worked tirelessly to make this possible. And then I would like to thank and introduce to you the Chancellor of the University of Arkansas, Little Rock, Dr. Joel Anderson. He came to this university in 2003, bringing with him more than 30 years of university and community service. He has also led the university in establishing the Institute of Race and Ethnicity to move Arkansas forward on the broad front of racial and ethnic justice through education and research, and dialogue, community events, and reconciliation initiatives. After more than 45 years of excellent service to the University of Arkansas, Little Rock, Dr. Anderson will be retiring this year. At this time, please welcome Dr. Joel Anderson.
Thank you very much, Eric Braden. And it's a great pleasure for me today to welcome all of you to the campus of the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. And it's an honor to have you on the campus on a day when so many Arkansans and so many Americans inspired by the memory of Dr. King will have not a day off, but a day on, a day of service. In addition to expressing appreciation to Mr. Scarborough and the members of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission and the staff of the commission for their work, both preceding and on the day of this great event, I want to express my appreciation to two people here on campus who have had a key role in making this event become the success that it is. One is Ms. Rosalind Miller, and the other is Mr. John Evans. And much that's happening today would not be happening had it not been for their great commitment and hard work. My comment will be very brief. Dr. King's name will properly be invoked many times today. In fact, it has been already. And the very fact that we have a day bearing his name is just one piece of evidence of the distance the nation has come since he wrote a letter from a Birmingham jail. But as we recall the dream he had, and it was a dream shared by many other fellow civil rights warriors, including one from Arkansas, Ozell Hutton, whom we have just lost, we must recognize and admit that as a nation and as a state, Arkansas, we still have a long way to go. And we see that in our schools and in our neighborhoods and in the news, day after day without end. We like to say here at the university on this issue, you have to face it to fix it. Dr. King said, human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice and suffering and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. May this great day of meetings and activities on Dr. King's Day give us renewed inspiration to heed Dr. King's wise words and follow his courageous example in working to proclaim and to pursue the self-evident truths and the fundamental commitments of our nation's founding documents.
Mr. Melvin Williams is a world-renowned gospel producer and singer and songwriter and a lead vocalist for the legendary Williams Brothers. He's the songwriter, producer, and singer of the hit song, Cooling Water, which remained on the Billboard and gospel charts for over 100 weeks and remains one of the most popular songs requested by audiences nationwide. I heard him this morning and almost began to boogie. With his distinctive gospel sound, he has been a leader in the gospel music industry for more than 55 years. Please give a warm welcome to Melvin Williams.
Turn it up in the house. Thank you for that great introduction. Might have to get you to help me sing in a minute. All the old school people in the house, y'all make some noise. Y'all gotta help me sing this classic song. Remember this? Father, oh, help your children. Don't let them fall by the side of a road. And teach them to love one another. Heaven might find a place in the heart. Jesus, come on, is love. Let me hear you out there, come on. And he won't let you down. And I know that he's mine. Oh, mine forever. Oh, in my heart. Listen. You got to walk on. I imagine Martin Luther King said this. Walk on through temptation. Oh, my. His love and his wisdom will be our helping hand. And I know the truth and his word said it will be our salvation, yes. Oh my, lift up your hearts and be that you're glad of? Jesus. Everybody, come on. What is it? I can't hear you. Y'all sound good. Y'all sound good. He won't let you down. And I know that he's mine. Oh, mine. Way deep down in my soul. Jesus, he's love. Can I get a witness out there? Come on, wave your hands in the air if you know what I'm talking about. He won't let you down, and I know that he's mine. Yeah, forever. Oh, right here in my heart. Help me, y'all. Y'all know this, so come on. Hey, deep in my heart. Yeah. I know. His love has the power. Come on. Love has the glory. Forever. Hey, y'all make some noise and say yeah. Say yeah. Can I hear you out there say yeah? Ooh, I just want to follow your star. Lord, wherever you lead me, I hope you don't mind, dear Jesus. Hope you don't mind. I just wanna walk with you. I just wanna talk with you. I just wanna do all the things that you want me to do, because I know that Jesus. Hey, Lord have mercy. I feel touchy for you. Love is the word. Forever. I need a few church folks to come on and go with me. Who can bring you love? Who can bring you joy? Who can turn your life around? Hey, now to get on your feet and wave your hand and just say yes. This is a celebration. Come on. Let me hear you over here. Who can pick you up when you're falling down? Who's gonna stand beside him? Who's gonna love us all? My sweet Jesus. Who can heal your body? Somebody know you'll make you strong. Help you to hold on. Oh, a little bit longer. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, Jesus loves you. Jesus wants you. And if you call him, he will answer. Call him in the morning, in the evening, in the midnight hour. Oh. Say yeah. Oh. Shoot it. Hey. Oh my. If you don't remember nothing else that I said, just know that Jesus is love. God bless you. God bless you.
The programs of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission encourage understanding of the value of racial and cultural diversity, offering the next generation of Arkansans the opportunity to embrace Dr. King's values of love, cooperation, acceptance among all people. We thank you once again for attending the 2016 Mega King Fest, the largest event in the nation honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Please take a moment and give a round of applause to all of our sponsors. Star of India Restaurant, Arkansas Talks Magazine, Larry Carpenter and Holiday Inn Presidential, Everett Buick GMC, that is. Friendship Platinum level sponsor FedEx Freight Incorporated, the Beta Pi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha, St. Mark Baptist Church, Cosmic Kids Outreach of Pine Bluff. Our media sponsors, 103.7 The Buzz, Power 92, The Praise Network and Cumulus Media, Axiom, Target, Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield, Conway Corporation, Bank of the Ozarks, Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, Wellspun, Shout After School Program, Pine Bluff School District, Delta Regional Authority, Coca-Cola, Arkansas Department of Human Services, Arkansas Department of Workforce Services, Arkansas Minority Health Commission, Entergy, Comcast Universal, Saline Memorial Behavioral Health, Allison Memorial Presbyterian Church, Just Communities of Arkansas, State Farm Insurance, Denny's, Tyson, the Olive Garden, Safe Like Glass, Pepsi Cola, Walmart, and the Arkansas Humanities Council. If you're a sponsor, please stand and wave. One more round of applause for all of our sponsors.
After that music by Melvin Williams, I'll become religious, I promise you. Ooh, I love that music. Growing up as a boy in Germany after the war, the first impression of great music was Louis Armstrong. He came to visit, never forget it. Yep. Love gospel music. The Sri Madha Madhva Well-Spun Temple of Little Rock, Arkansas, is a spiritual home for people of all religions, nationalities, and cultures in devotion of Hare Krishna. It is one of the first ever temples built by Wellspun outside of India and is accessible to all community members, regardless of their religion and nationality. The Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission once again is proud to pay tribute to the cultural landscape and religious diversity of Arkansas. Please welcome the Wellspun Temple as they perform a ceremonial welcome to our keynote speaker, Arun Manilal Gandhi. Following the presentation by Wellspun, 11-year-old Diya Chakraborty will perform a song from India, the favorite song of the late Mohandas Gandhi.
At this time, the members of Wellspun are performing a welcome ceremonial lighting, welcoming our keynote speaker, Mr. Arun Manilal Gandhi.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। नमो ब्रह्मण देवाय गो ब्राह्मण हिताय च जगत् हिताय कृष्णाय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। ईश्वर परमा कृष्ण सचितानंद विग्रह अनादिरादि गोविंद सर्वकारण कारणम। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरते नमः। ओम हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम शांति शांति शांति।
Hello? Hello? वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे। पर दुखे उपकार करे तुहे मन अभिमान ना आने रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे। सकल लोक मां सहुने वंदे निंदा न करे के नीरे। वाच काछ मन निश्चल राखे धन धन जननी तेरी रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे। समदृष्टि ने तृष्णा त्यागी परस्त्री जैने मात रे। जिहुआ धकी असत्य न बोले पर धन नव छाले हाथ रे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे। मोह माया व्यापी नहीं जेने तुढ़ावे राखे जिना मन मारे। राम नाम शू ताड़ी रे लागी सकड़ तिरखत ना तन मारे। वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे। वड़लो भी ने ता कुड़ एको तिर तार्या रे वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मन अभिमान ना आने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेरे कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे
That was beautiful. Beautiful girl. My goodness. All across the world. Annie Mabel McDaniel Abrams is a retired educator and a political and social and civic and community activist. She took an active role in community issues and became involved with the desegregation of Central High School. The first national observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday was held on January 20th, 1986, after which Abrams, with the help of other community members, meeting in a living room, established what would become a campaign to rename High Street in Little Rock as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, and the first program honoring Dr. Martin Luther King on the steps of the Capitol. In 2010, she was inducted to the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame. She serves as an honorary co-chair of the State Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. Please welcome Ms. Annie Abrams to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Eric. I tried to live up to the expectations. I got my kiss from you. Did y'all get that picture? To my other son. Where did he go? Deshaun. I am so humbled and honored to participate in this celebration some 30 years later. What's in a name? The name of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., son of Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., Daddy King, as we called him, and I did call him to his face, Daddy King. And what's in a name, it still becomes a greater legacy. I remember when Martin Luther King III was here on the Capitol steps in Little Rock to help us carry on the value of a family name. Today, I've been given the privilege to introduce to you in person another family name that is a legacy, a third generation member of a family that is a world historic family name. The connection between families is significant. The Martin Luther King family, Jr., and his wife, Coretta Scott King, when they wanted to know more about how, as educated activists, how to be about the concept of a family and so Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Reverend, from Ebenezer Baptist Church, went to India to learn what it means to be about nonviolence. And so today, as I am here with a third generation of another world family member, of which Dr. King became one when he received the Nobel Peace Prize. These two families were united not only in the academics of how you become an advocate and an activist. The Mahatma Gandhi family had experienced civil conflict in their country. But our speaker's grandfather became a master teacher for the world. And so today, as an educator that continues to teach, I'm here in class today with you to understand better how to confront conflict. This third generation leader, Aaron, and I call you Aaron? That's easier in America to call you Aaron. He will invoke such powerful images of integrity, courage, social harmony, and perhaps most of all, hope for us in a day when hope is so low. Today, when you come as an heir of advocacy, coming from a country where racial divisiveness was so deep, it was institutionalized by the name apartheid in South Africa. I had the privilege to meet the first president after your lesson of your grandfather had been taught. So today, as you come and you bring to us an atlas of how to solve the problem of divisiveness around race, religion, class, and political divisiveness. You're coming today and the opportunity for many of us to experience a part of your culture in the exercise of rolling and teaching by the ceremony we all just experienced. But one of the things that we have in common is, whether it's one of the Williams singing or whether it was the young lady singing, I saw the body rhythm of love that came through. And so I want you to assume that all of us are in pre-kindergarten of how to learn the true lesson of how to bring about peace in a nonviolent way. Welcome to America. on behalf of your heirs family. But because we helped produce you, we feel that you are my brother and your family is my family. We thank you for coming to help our family in America move closer to peace. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a great privilege to be here today to celebrate the life of a great person, a person whom I consider to be my brother, spiritual brother. But before I go on with the talk that I intend to give this morning, I want to acknowledge the beautiful hymn sung by the young lady. It was moving, it was inspiring. It was the hymn that my grandfather loved very much because it describes what an ideal person should be. I wish I had the time to translate the whole hymn to you, but I have already been given an impossible task to solve the world's problems in 15 minutes. So I'm trying to do the best I can. As you were told in the introduction, Dr. King came to India in 1959 as a guest of the government of India. He came with his family as well as some of the civil rights leaders to learn about nonviolence. And during their trip around India, they came to the city of Bombay, now called Mumbai. And I was a journalist then, working for the Times of India. And during the trip around Bombay, they came to the little modest house where my grandfather used to live whenever he came to the city. That house has now been transformed into a museum. And the room that my grandfather occupied is sealed. Nobody is allowed to go inside. It's kept in the same condition as it used to be during his time. It's bare of all furniture. The only thing that he used was a mattress on the floor to sit on and sleep, and a little desk where he squatted on the floor and did his work, and his spinning wheel. So people can look through the glass window, but nobody can go inside. When Dr. King came there, he expressed the wish to go inside and sit in meditation for a little while. And the director of the museum made a special case for him, being a state guest. She said, all right, I will allow you alone to go inside, but not all of your family members. And so he dismissed everybody and he said, you go about whatever you want to do, and I'm going to sit here in meditation in this room. And he went inside and he sat there and he sat there and he sat there. And soon it was time for the museum to close. And Dr. King showed no signs of coming out of the room. So the director went to him and asked him, when are you planning to leave? We need to close and go home. And he said, I'm not going. I'm not leaving. I'm staying here the night. And she was aghast. She said, how can you stay here? This is a museum. We don't even have a bed for you here. And Dr. King said that if Gandhi could sleep on the floor, I can sleep on the floor. And if he could live here, I can live here. So I'm not going anywhere. He stayed the whole night in that room and came out the next morning and he said, now I feel spiritually strong enough to go back and lead my people in a nonviolent struggle for civil rights. And that is what brings him closer to me, because I was influenced by my grandfather just as he was influenced by my grandfather. We both believed in the same philosophy. I still continue to talk about it and preach about it. And every year when I take a group on a Gandhi Legacy tour from the United States, we go to that museum and we see the room that inspired Dr. King to such an extent. But it's important for us to also understand what do we really mean by nonviolence. We talk about nonviolence, we talk about using it effectively, but we have to remember that nonviolence is not a weapon. It is not something that you can use when it's convenient and discard when it is not. You either believe in it or you don't. And if you believe in it, you have to live it and make it a part of your life. Now, I learned this very important lesson from my grandfather when I was living with him as a 12-year-old boy. I lived with him for 2 years, from 12 to 14, the last 2 years of his life. And during that time, he taught me some lessons that made a profound impact on me. And one of the lessons came about through a little pencil, a little 3-inch butt of a pencil became a subject for a major lesson for me. And this happened one day when I was coming back from school, and I had this little pencil in my hand, and I thought to myself, I deserve a better pencil. This is too small for me to use. And without a second thought, I just threw the pencil away because I was so sure that grandfather would give me a new pencil when I asked him for one. But that evening when I met grandfather and asked him for a new pencil, instead of giving me one, he subjected me to a lot of questions. He wanted to know how the pencil became small and where did I throw it away and why did I throw it away, and on and on and on. And I couldn't understand why he was making such a fuss over a little pencil until he told me to go out and look for it. And I said, you must be joking. He said, you don't expect me to look for a little pencil in the dark? He said, oh yes, I do. Here's a flashlight. And he sent me out with a flashlight to look for this pencil, and I must have spent about 2 hours searching for it. And when I finally found it and brought it to him, he said, now I want you to sit here and learn 2 very important lessons. The first lesson is that even in the making of a simple thing like a pencil, we use a lot of the world's natural resources. And when we throw them away, we are throwing away the world's natural resources, and that is violence against nature. And the second lesson is that because in an affluent society we can afford to buy all these things in bulk, we overconsume the resources of the world. And because we overconsume them, we are depriving people elsewhere of these resources, and they have to live in poverty, and that is violence against humanity. And that was the first time I realized that all of these little things that we do every day, consciously and unconsciously, the things that we throw away and overconsume and destroy because we have so much of it, that every time we indulge in any of those actions, we are committing violence against nature or against human beings. to make me understand this lesson thoroughly, he made me draw a genealogical tree of violence, just as we would do a family tree, with violence as the grandparent and physical violence and passive violence as the two branches. And every day before I went to bed, I had to analyze and examine everything that I had experienced during the day. Things that I may have done to other people or people may have done to me, or things that I may have read about. All of that had to be analyzed and examined and put in their appropriate places. If it was the kind of violence where we use physical force, punching and fighting and beating up people and kicking and all of the hundreds of things that we do where we use physical force against each other, that would go under physical violence. But if it's the kind of violence where we don't use any physical force and yet we hurt people, things like discrimination, looking down on people, teasing people, all the little things that we do where we don't even come in touch with people. For instance, the other day I read in the New York Times that in the United States alone, we throw away $60 billion worth of food every year. It goes into the garbage. Now that is form of violence, especially when millions of people in our own country here live in poverty and go to bed in hunger. So that is passive violence. And the way I had to determine whether this is passive violence or not was to ask myself the question, if somebody were to do this to me, would I be hurt by it or would I be helped by it? And if I came to the conclusion that it would hurt me, then that would be passive violence. And when I began to do this introspection, I was amazed that within a few months, I was able to fill up a whole wall in my room with acts of passive violence and not so much acts of physical violence. And that is when Grandfather explained the connection between the two. He said, we commit passive violence all the time, every day, consciously and unconsciously. And that generates anger in the victim. And the victim then resorts to physical violence to get justice. So it is passive violence that fuels the fire of physical violence. So logically, if we want to put out that fire of physical violence, we have to cut off the fuel supply. And since the fuel supply comes from each one of us, we have to become the change we wish to see in the world. If we don't change, the world is not going to change. We cannot create a society of peace if we are not at peace within ourselves. We have to find that peace within ourselves to create a society that is peaceful. We have to be good people to create a good society. We can't create a good society or a good world if we are not good people. Grandfather emphasized always that we must do an introspection of our lives. We must look at ourselves honestly and regularly and try to change the weaknesses that we have in our character, in our life, change them into strengths. And that is how we become better human beings. That is what he did. That is what Dr. Martin Luther King did. That is what all the people who became great, whom we worship today, they made that conscious effort to become better people. They were not born great. They were not born with special attributes. They were born with the commitment to become better human beings. We all have that commitment, but we don't exercise that commitment. And it's time that we exercise that commitment and become better human beings and create a world where peace and harmony can prevail. Today we find ourselves in spiritual darkness, where hate and prejudice and anger and frustration are being encouraged. And the only way we can combat that is not by fighting it, but becoming an enlightenment, lighting a candle so that we can dispel the darkness that surrounds us. And the only way we can light that candle is by changing our own prejudices and our own hate that exists in all of us and transforming this society. I want to conclude now with a very famous story that my grandfather used to be very fond of telling me when I was growing up with him. It was a story of an ancient Indian king who once became very curious about the meaning of peace. And he invited all the intellectuals in his kingdom to come and explain the meaning of peace. And everybody came there and tried to do their best, but nobody could satisfy the king. Then one day there was an intellectual from another town who came on a visit, and the king asked him the meaning of peace. And he said, the only person who can give you a satisfactory answer is an old sage who lives outside your kingdom. But he is so old that he cannot come to you. You will have to go to him and ask him this question. So the next day the king went to this sage and asked him the meaning of peace. And the sage quietly went to the back of the house, came back with a grain of wheat and placed that grain of wheat on the king's palm and said, here is the meaning of peace. And of course the king didn't know what a grain of wheat had to do with peace, and he didn't want to show his ignorance. So he quietly clutched that grain of wheat and went back to the palace, found a little gold box, placed that grain of wheat in the box, and every morning he would get up and open the box to look for an answer and couldn't find an answer. So a few days later, when this intellectual came back on a return visit, the king asked him to explain. He said, you sent me to the sage, he gave me this grain of wheat, and I don't know what a grain of wheat has to do with peace. And that's when the intellectual said, it's very simple. He said, if you keep this grain of wheat in this box, nothing is going to happen. Eventually it will rot and perish, and that will be the end of the story. But if you had allowed this grain of wheat to interact with all the elements, if you had planted this outside in the soil, it would sprout and grow, and very soon you could have a whole field of wheat. And that is the meaning of peace. If we keep peace locked up in our hearts for our own sake, it will perish with us. But if we let it interact with all the elements, it would spread and grow, and very soon we can all become peacemakers. So I have come here today to give you the grain of wheat that I got from my grandfather. And I hope that you won't let it perish, but let it interact with all the elements so that all of us together can transform our own country and transform this world into a better place for future generations. Thank you.
Chairman Phil Kaplan and Executive Director Deshaun Scarborough have been featured in the high-profile section of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette for their contributions in addition to several events hosted by the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. Please welcome Arkansas Democrat-Gazette columnist and feature writer, Ms. Helene Williams.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you are excited to be here as I am. As Mrs. Abrams, I am both humbled and honored to be here, stand in the midst of greatness today. As such, I hope that you will bear with me and that I will not stammer like a schoolgirl as I present these awards. Each year, the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission recognizes individuals, cities, and organizations who have honored the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. through exemplary contributions to their communities. These contributions may be through civil rights advocacy, a lifetime of community service, or economic development. In a community that sparked the first deployment of federal agents to Arkansas in support of integration. In a community that is working hard to change its image, the King Commission recognizes those who continue Dr. King's dream. At the 2016 annual Interfaith Prayer Breakfast, the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission awarded Pastor Mark DeMaz and Mosaic Church with the Economic Development Award for their redevelopment of the University District through entrepreneurship. Also, the Humanitarian Award was presented earlier to Reverend Hezekiah Stewart for his tireless efforts in meeting the needs of Central Arkansas's at-risk community. Assisting the presenters of the awards for this program will be the 2016 Miss Teen Promise Scholarship Pageant Queens under the direction of Miss Evangeline Parker Guest. We will start today with 3 Arkansas Travelers Awards presented by Mr. Deshaun Scarborough, Executive Director of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. The first Arkansas Travelers Award is presented to our keynote speaker, Mr. Arun Ghani. Our second Arkansas Travelers Award will be presented to legendary gospel singer, Mr. Melvin Williams. And last but not least, our third Arkansas Travelers Award will be presented to our esteemed Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Eric Braden. The Arkansas Travelers Certificate honors out-of-state visitors. According to the Arkansas Traveler legend, the recipient of the award must always say good things about the people of Arkansas. Now we come to the presentation of the Salute to Greatness Award. The Salute to Greatness Award honors individuals and progressive organizations in recognition of outstanding efforts toward building their communities. These individuals also exemplify excellence in leadership and have demonstrated a commitment to the principles and philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I would like to welcome King Commissioner Nisa Bishop to present the award.
Good morning, and what a great morning we have had in a celebration of Martin Luther King. On behalf of the Martin Luther King Commission, it is my honor to present the 2016 Salute to Greatness Award to Mr. Chris Mezinel with the Delta Regional Authority for leadership, economic development, education, and strengthening the Delta region.
Congratulations, Mr. Massagill. The 2016 Humanities Award. The Humanities Award honors individuals or groups whose contributions have impacted our state and nation's history. At this time, we are proud to present the award to the town of Hoxie, Arkansas. And accepting for Hoxie will be Ethel Tompkins, a student during the 1955 integration and the first African American to graduate from Hoxie High School, the mayor, the superintendent of Hoxie Schools, and Hoxie School Board members. Let's give them all a hand. What a great moment. The town of Hoxie celebrated its 60th anniversary last year. Oh, wonderful. They came out 60 strong to observe and celebrate the integration of their schools. Truly a momentous occasion, and especially in light of the weather today. We just give them kudos for coming out. We now come to the 2016 Dream Keepers Award.
Good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Pettis. I'm speaking on behalf of Mr. Scarborough. I'd like to say, and according to Mr. Scarborough and his own experiences, he says he can say that because of the efforts of Harrison, Arkansas, Harrison is a very welcoming, beautiful city. Dr. King once said, "Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred." The citizens of Harrison have demonstrated that if one person can make a change through negativity, then what can one person do by being positive? Dr. King's dream of racial harmony, love, and acceptance is shown through the city of Harrison, and today we salute them with the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Dream Keepers Award for their efforts in promoting racial harmony. Accepting for Harrison is Mayor Dan Sherrill.
Thank you on behalf of the citizens of Harrison for this award. Thank you very much.
And congratulations to the town of Harrison, Arkansas and its representatives. We now come to the 2016 Community Service Award. The Community Service Award will be presented by Commissioner Jerome Green.
It is now my great pleasure to present the Community Service Award to Dr. Jim Carr. Give him a hand.
distinguished guests on the dais, fellow participants in the program, thank you very much for this award. I'm honored to receive it, but I really want to issue an invitation to you. On February the 9th, Harding University in Searcy will host Mr. Fred Gray, and Mr. Gray was Martin Luther King's attorney. He'll be speaking on campus the night of February the 9th. We welcome you to that program. Thank you and God bless you.
The Lifetime Achievement Award honors individuals who have made contributions of outstanding significance to their respective fields and the lives of others. The 2016 Lifetime Achievement Award will be presented by Deshaun Scarborough, Executive Director of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Commission, and Commissioner Andy Montgomery.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy Montgomery. I'm a commissioner with the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, and I am pleased to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to our chairman and my friend, Phil Kaplan. If you would allow me, let me tell you just a little bit about his accomplishments. Attorney Kaplan has practiced in the area of unemployment law, civil rights, and business litigation since his licensing by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in 1962. From 1962 until 1967, he was a field attorney with the National Labor Relations Board in St. Louis, Missouri. In January of 1968, he was licensed to practice law in Arkansas when he became associated with the firm of McMath, Leatherman, Woods, and Youngdahl. In 1969, he left that firm to continue his practice of employment law and civil rights law with the firm of Walker, Kaplan, and Mays, where he remained a principal until December 1977. Mr. Kaplan is a member of the American Board of Trial Advocates, the American College of Trial Lawyers, the American Academy of Appellate Lawyers. He was a longtime adjunct law faculty member at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, William H. Bowen School of Law, where he taught trial advocacy. He has been a member of the Board of Governors of the Arkansas Bar Association and the chair of that organization. He is an emeritus member of the William Overton Inn of Court and a member of the Pulaski County, Arkansas, and the American Bar Associations. He is a fellow of the American Bar Association Foundation. Mr. Kaplan began his activity in class action cases when he was appointed to be the attorney for the inmate population of the Arkansas prison system, where the court ultimately declared that the entire prison system was unconstitutional. Mr. Kaplan appeared before the United States Supreme Court in his capacity as the attorney for the inmates in the case. In addition to his extensive trial work, Mr. Kaplan has successfully argued many cases before the United States Circuit Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit and the Arkansas Supreme Court. It's hard to imagine that not too long ago, Attorney Kaplan worked at one of the first integrated law firms in the state of Arkansas. I am honored to present the 2016 Lifetime Achievement Award to my fellow commissioner and my friend, Attorney Phil Kaplan. Let's step down.
Take a moment of worship. When you've been hugged by Andy Montgomery, you've been hugged by a man. Since Dr. King said it's time to forgive but not forget, I think I need to forgive the people of Hoxie for the traffic ticket I got there 40 years ago. It's not possible to do the job of chair without the total cooperation and love of my fellow commissioners. And I appreciate every single one of you, and for those who have now completed their terms. Lastly, I was so warmed by Andrew's little talk. My wife, Ruthie, is over. You could stand, Ruthie. And our son, Andrew, and his wife, Cheryl, and our daughter, Julie, are all here. Could not have done any of this without their love and affection. Thank you, and thank you all.
All our award recipients a round of applause. You are now back in the hands of Mr. Eric Braden, our Master of Ceremonies.
Hello, hello. I couldn't help but be impressed by speeches of Ms. Adams, Mr. Gundy, Mr. Kaplan. I'm very impressed, I must say, with the work that John Scarborough has done to put all this together. It takes the hard work of people like to my left and to my right to make changes in society. An example of what it means if one person decides to make a difference. I came to this country in 1959 as an 18-year-old boy. I drove through the South. And I can tell you one thing, we have come a long, long way. A long way. We're not all the way there, but we have come a long, long way. The segregation at that time was so stark, so vivid, so cruel. This revolution has been enormous, fundamental in this society. Whatever happens in America then happens in other parts of the world. But this is the leading country in which all these changes happen. That's why you live in a great country. I'm proud to be an American. Thomas Dorsey wrote, "Precious Lord," in response to his inconsolable bereavement at the death of his wife and his infant son in August 1932. It was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s favorite song, and he often invited gospel singer Mahalia Jackson to sing it at civil rights rallies to inspire the crowds. At his request, she sang it at his funeral in April 1968. King's last words before his assassination was a request to play it at a mass he was due to attend that. "Take My Hand, Precious Lord," has been published in more than 40 languages. Please welcome Zatoria Curry as we remember the late Dr. King's legacy with our final program selection, Precious Lord.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, and let me stand. I am tired. I am weak. Lord, I'm worn through
lead me on to the light. Pray, precious Lord, take my hand and lead me on when my way grows drear. Precious Lord, why don't you linger near when my life is almost gone. Hold my hand, Lord. Hold my hand. Guide my feet, Lord, lest I fall. Precious Lord, take my hand and lead me on.
We thank you for attending the largest event honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. 2016, a day of service. Please follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Please stay for lunch and photos with me and Aaron Gundy and Mr. Melvin Williams. And join the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission and our youth at the MLK Birthday Bash with a free comedy show by Marlon Wayans and MLK Trivia at Broadway Joe of Power 92. And before we close, I must say I see my friend Larry Carpenter and his wife Jody. Larry Carpenter is one of the sponsors of these events. Thanks, old boy. I'm Eric Braden of The Young and the Restless. Keep tuning in. Make us your favorite daytime soap opera. I've enjoyed being a master of ceremonies. I leave you in the words of the great Dr. Martin Luther King. Everyone can be great because everyone can serve. Be great. Make King Holiday a full day. Thank you very much. Be cool. Bye-bye.